Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining the Spiritist Talk series, which is a program promoted by the United States Spiritist Federation. And we meet as today every Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. I am delighted to be here and be your host, where Leo Vieira, my friend Leo, will be here talking about the parable of the barren fig tree. Hi, Leo. How you doing?
Hello, and thanks for having me here.
Absolutely. Well, I want everyone here to just give you a very warm welcome, Leo. And before you start your presentation, please allow me to introduce you for anyone who's here who may not know who you are. So, Leonardo Vieira, is one of the founders of and a worker, right? A contributing volunteer of the Spiritist Society of Baltimore, SSB. And Leo has conducted and helped with several works at the SSB, including study groups, mediumship meetings, and public talks. Leo, professionally speaking, and from his educational background, has a bachelor's degree in business administration and a master's degree in management with specialization in Homeland Security. Professionally, Leo works for a major financial institution as a banker. But I want to have everyone be feel free and invited to take this opportunity to send your questions during the presentation using the chat window. We will have some time, right, Leo, to address your comments, your questions, and we'll do that upon the conclusion of your presentation. Thank you so very much, Leo. Take it away.
Hello, everyone, and again, thank you so much for having me here with this opportunity to share with you a work that we have started at the Spirit Society of Baltimore some time ago to study and bring the teachings of the parable to get connected, to connect in a different level with our Master Jesus and these teachings, and dive in the best way possible into these teachings. And today, we will be sharing one of the parables that we have shared at the Spirit Society of Baltimore as well, which is the parable of the barren fig tree. I like always to kind of get some background on what a parable is, right? And this is going to be crucial here for this presentation, for this parable, because it can be very confused with other passages of the Bible as well. When Jesus was actually with a group of the those who were with him, and they come in contact with a fig tree as well. But hear me out. We'll get there. A parable. A parable is actually a story, an account, actually, giving by someone. And Jesus used to utilize of parables in many cases, utilizing of the day to day artifacts or situations or lifestyle of his time, so that he could bring teachings to those around him. Right. It is a story, much like we tell story to our kids, to those perhaps an account to those, to someone else, so that they can understand our point of view, a teaching in general, right? But it's not something that necessarily has happened, right? So in the idea of the study of these parables as well is that we get closer to God, or we try to reestablish a better relationship with God, right? So that we get closer, because many of these teachings is that we will see many of the parable is an account of Jesus telling us that that the kingdom of God is like so and so. The kingdom of God is like this and that, right? So it again, it serves as a way for us to connect, to reconnect with God, right? Not the meaning punishing God that sometimes we like to believe, or perhaps the man sitting on a throne, but someone, a creator, right? That is that wants us well and want us to exceed in every sorts of way of life, right? And every in different areas of our lives. The other thing that we like to approach as well to also remind everyone is that these teachings, it's very hard for us to go and literally apply them in our lives and saying that this or that character is God, or that we do that every now and then with some of the parables, and we will see a little bit on this parable as well. But let's not apply it literally, because sometimes it can be confusing. But look at the meaning, the full meaning of it, right? The broader meaning of these parables, but also some details too, which is okay, and making sure that we are applying them towards ourselves first, making sure that we analyze this and bring this towards us, and whenever possible, in which is our daily lives, like living with one another, is that we can also apply towards others. And we will see how we can do this with this parable. Because at the end of the day, if we study these parables and we're not applying them, it doesn't really mean anything, right? If we don't put into practice, or like anything else we study, and especially Spiritism, we don't learn anything by not putting into practice. Perhaps we remember the ABCs of the parable of what was said, but again, we have to put into practice. So let's see what this is. And I would like to also urge you that I will be doing, perhaps will confuse you before I'm able to bring some clarification of what this parable is, because I'm quite sure that you will be, I never heard of this, but you will hear that you will come in contact with the second slide, that you say, oh, that's what I saw and that's what I thought it was. So hear me out. Here is the parable. The parable can be found on Luke chapter 13, verses 6 through 9. It's very short, but has an amazing content that we can dive in for hours. But our time is short. We'll try to keep short and sweet, and hopefully able to bring you what the teachings are behind this parable. The parable of the barren fig tree. And he told this parable: a man had a fig tree planted in his vineyard, and he came seeking fruit on it and found none. And he said to the vine dresser, look, for 3 years now I have come seeking fruit on this fig tree, and I find none. Cut it down. And it was told, just cut it down. Why should it use up the ground? And he answered him. Now actually is the keeper, right? Though the vine dresser talking to him. Sir, let it alone this year also, until I dig around it and put on manure. Then if it should bear fruit next year, well and good. But if not, you can cut it down. So we see that perhaps you may be scratching your head right now and saying, oh, that's not what I heard what the parable was. And it's okay, because there is a huge confusion of this parable, which as we can see it as an account, right? That was told by Jesus, with something else that we will barely touch it on right now, but we will see at the end real quick, right? It is these two passages of the Bible. One is in Mark chapter 11, and the other is in chapter 21st of the Gospel of Matthew, when Jesus curses a fig tree and clears up the temple, right? It clears the temple courts. The clears up the temple courts is actually a passage after, but he tells the fig tree that it would not bear any more fruit. And after he directs himself towards the fig tree, the next day the disciples come along and they see that the fig tree had died. That is not the parable. This is something that happened, that Jesus told directly to the fig tree, that you will not bear any more fruit, right? You will cease to exist, and we'll see a little bit more. But I want to just clear this up, so we make a distinguish. We can distinguish between these three passages of the Bible the actual parable, and the two accounts that actually, well, the one account that is told through two of the evangelists over here in Mark and in Matthew. We're going to put this aside just so you can see, and we're going to revisit them towards the end. Okay, so let us actually analyze the actual parable, and we're going to dive into this little pieces of it so we understand where we are with this, right? And he told this parable: a man had a fig tree planted in his vineyard, and he came seeking fruit on it and found none. So we see that we have a fig tree that is actually planted in the vineyard. So it is next to other uh, uh, trees, types of trees, right? And we that is pretty much by itself has no other tree next to it that is similar, right? And it is completely out of its place, right? We like to just for this first part analyze the fact that it was given a chance. It has life. Life was given to this tree, right? And when we look at it, we say, interesting, because isn't that the way sometimes we feel as well, that we are out of place, that perhaps we don't fit in, and we don't have this we're not in the area where we would be able to give ourselves the best of ourselves, right? Because we are not in that same context, if we can say that way, right? But at least we have life. At least we were given the opportunity to be here, and we see now that I'm taking the teachings and I'm applying to ourselves, that it is something that we can also apply to others. And I will go back interchangeably saying, perhaps this is something that we can apply to ourselves and perhaps towards others as well. And we see this in others, right? When we see somebody that is out of place, we go and tend to help that person. We go and we tend to share something that we are in common with them, so that we have in common, so they also feel cared for, right? But here, it's the beauty of all of this is that God gave this ability, or the owner of the land, right, actually gave the ability for this tree to sprout or to have life. Because if it was in the vineyard and in the sense that it was completely out of its place, he could have torn the tree down or taken the tree down way before it became a full alive tree, right? So, well, any tree is alive. You get the point, to grow, right? To develop with the other types of trees as well. The second element that we would like to share here, as we were saying, is that we're not alone. Perhaps not in the same context, perhaps not in the same not the way we would like to be, right? With those that perhaps share something in common with us, right? But we have others with us, so we're not alone. This tree was not just in the middle of a field by itself, right? And it's interesting, if you ever in an area, in a rural area, where you see plantations of whatever sort that you may look at it, pay attention that usually there is a tree in the middle of a field that is usually to mark a specific space, right? That a farmer will put a tree in a specific area so that it can actually demark actually a location in that plantation, right? But again, we're not alone. We serve a purpose in the area, in the field where we are, right? So we'll see that it's out of place, but hey, guess what? It is something that we are together. The next one that I would like to share with you is actually the justice of God. And here we see that the owner of the land coming to us and actually sharing with us the condition of it needs to bear fruit. So it needs to be cut down because it was not giving any fruit, right? So we have to make sure that we have the understanding that he was looking for something in the from the tree. He was looking for the tree for not only 1 year, but for several years already, that the tree was not giving any fruit. So here we see the justice of God, or of this landowner, right? Saying something has to happen, but the justice, I'm saying God, but really the landowner. So we go back and we say, wait a minute, is this a little bit too, how am I going to say, too harsh, right? To for us to understand and to see this as God. We can see God here as the creator, of all of us, but also the creator of the natural laws, right? And as we try to understand the natural laws, and we go back to the Spirit's book, and we know that in question 621, we will learn that the natural laws are inside of us, and we're going to touch a little bit on it as well. But we will see that the justice does not work alone, especially in terms of the justice of God. We also learn that we have the charity that comes with this law, the law of justice, right? So we will see justice coming and saying you need to bear fruits, right? But also we see the vine dresser coming and saying, let us go ahead and hold on to it. Let us take the time, just hold on to this, the actual tree, and I will do some tweaking in this whole thing here before we cut it down. And after I do this, if nothing happens, then we can cut it down. But for the time being, let us just go ahead and hold on to it. This is when I would like to make a pause to the actual parable and share something with you, because this is actually some teachings that we also have to connect and rescue some of the teachings of Spiritism. In the Spirit's book, we will see on chapter 1, the third part of it, the divine or natural laws, when Kardec asks the Spirit, what do you think of the division of natural law into 10 parts? Covering the laws of worship, labor, reproduction, preservation, destruction, society, progress, equality, liberty, and lastly, the law of justice, love, and charity. The answer is the division of God's law into 10 parts comes from Moses and covers all the circumstances of life, which is the essential point. You may follow that division, although like other classification systems, it does not contain anything absolute. Such systems always depend on the point of view from which a subject is considered. The last law is the most important, since through it humans can advance the furthest in the spiritual life. It sums up all the others. And this is the part that, if anything here, we would like to make a connection with this message in terms with the parable, in terms of how we apply towards ourselves and how we apply towards others, right? The last law, the law of justice, love, and charity. When we see the landowner come in saying, cut it down, cut it out, right? And we see the vine dresser saying, no. Let's go ahead and take some time. I will take care of it. And if a year from now there's no fruit, then you cut it down, right? We see the law of justice saying it's a fruit. It's a living organism and it needs to bear fruit, but it's taken its time for 3 years now. And then we see the vine dresser saying, no, let's just go ahead and put some manure, some tweaking, and then we'll go ahead and see if it sprouts some fruit, right? It bears some fruit, right? And it's the same thing in our lives. We see this happening to us day in and day out. We see this happening with others day in and day out. And it's important that we apply this towards ourselves. first of all, and we apply this towards others as well. It goes back to the connection that we have with our Creator, and it goes back to the connection that we have with one another, right? Because whatever we can do, we can also actually apply whatever we can do towards ourselves. We will do also towards others. So it's important for us to take this moment, to take this passage, and truly apply towards ourselves and towards others. What is the true? Can't hear you.
I am muted. I'm so sorry. Leo,
Mhm.
I think you're frozen, your image, so I'm not sure if we're having issues with connectivity.
I probably am. Give me 1 second.
Everyone, just give us a second to address the technical problems, right, Leo?
Let me see here.
So, as Leo was saying, he's giving some correlations between the Spirit's book and how we are doing this. So, Leo, do you want to leave and then come back and see if it's better? I think he did that, everyone. I will just to try to talk about it because this message, this passage actually about the fig tree, as Leonardo mentioned, there's a couple and several accounts between Luke and Mark, and I believe Matthew as well. And those are very powerful parables, very important for all of us to think. So let me see if you can move, Leo.
I think I can.
Yes, yes. So let's go
Thanks
back.
for your patience.
No, it's okay. Yeah, everybody, thank you for your patience. Leo, I know you were talking about the reference between the parable and the teachings from the Spirit's book,
That's right.
and I could hear you, but I could not see you. So let's go ahead and try again, if you don't mind taking from there.
Sure.
Let's
Sure.
pretend this is dress rehearsal. Let's go ahead. Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. As we were saying, thank you so much for your patience in figuring this out. But yes, so let us go back to the part where we learn from the parable in terms of the owner, the landowner, actually to come and say, cut it down. We see the justice coming down and saying, well, this has to be, this tree had to be giving bear, would have to by this time to bear fruit, right? For 3 years I don't see anything. So, and then we see that in that moment we see the justice, right, saying it has to happen, right? Because we all have to produce fruits, right? We all have to grow at one point. But then we also see the law of justice, not it by itself, but as the spirits are saying, as the most important one, the love coming and the charity coming and saying, let us love this tree a little bit longer, right? Because God's love is infinite, obviously, but let us love this tree a little bit more and also be charitable to it, to give some elements, right, that it will hopefully bear fruit. And if it doesn't, then we'll go ahead and take the measures that we have to take, right? But this is such a crucial and important part of the parable, because sometimes we do feel that we are not entitled to receive this love, that we apply this justice towards ourselves, not thinking that we are a loved son and daughter of God, right? That God wants us well, and God gives us these opportunities for us to grow, right? Whether we have erred yesterday, whether we have erred today, tomorrow there will be an opportunity. That doesn't mean we're not gonna think about, of what have the past opportunities that we didn't take care of it, because we learn with the baselines of life, right? With the things that we haven't done, and say, no, I can do better, right? but we see that God is merciful. We see that God is showing, or that Jesus in this parable is showing that we live in a merciful world, even though there are the law of justice, right? But the law of justice never works alone. And and for us to complement this, we also bring this question 886. What is the true meaning of the word charity as Jesus understood it? And the Spirit says benevolence towards everyone, indulgence towards the imperfection of others, and forgiveness of offenses. Wasn't it this, in a way, what the land keeper was doing when it heard from the landowner saying, "Cut it down"? It's like, no, let us just be indulgent a little bit, right? Let us forgive the fact that it hasn't bear trees yet, fruits yet, right? But it's a living organism. Let us give another chance. This will actually grow, and it will give us the ability to eat its fruits as well. So it's important that we bring this here, because love and charity supplement the law of justice, because loving our neighbors is to do to them all the good possible, all that we would wish to be done to ourselves. Such is the meaning of Jesus' words, love one another as brothers. And this again is on question 886 of the Spirit's book. Let us go back to the actual parable then, right? To see what else we have here. We talked a little bit about it already, right? It is the resources that we receive, that it's around us, right? We can say that the landowner is a resource, because it is applying it was applying, or trying to apply, its justice to say, cut it down, right? Sometimes there are those pushes in life that we receive, or those situations in life that is a little bit harsh, that we learn from. But most importantly here, we also have the land keeper saying, you know what, let's take a different approach here. Let us see what we can do. And then they mentioned that they would he would actually dig around the tree and put some manure. Here's a caveat, guys. Manure is a resource, but it smells, right? It's not something if right before uh, um, uh, um, spring, right? What do? We go and we take care of the plants outside. We put some mulch, and we put some of the stuff that we can buy, to help the plants regrow again, right? And the smell is not one of the best ones, right? And we're talking about that is not even direct manure, but here they're applying manure. So we know that some of these resources that we receive, especially when we are not bearing fruits, right, in our lives, they're not very, let's say, pleasant, right? But they are opportunities. And these are the sour, difficult opportunities of life that we receive, that sometimes we take for granted, we complain, right? But we know that that's going to help us grow. It's the remedy that we don't like to take. It's the little, let's say, moments of life that we have to stop and give up certain things in life that we wished we had, but to go ahead and grow in a different area, in a different way, right? So we have resources. We are giving innumerable resources in order for us to grow as well. And time will come, because sometimes we try to rush through it, right? And we try to give fruits right away, just because we realize that things were not going so well, and we want to make sure that that we want to, okay, I want to bear fruit tomorrow. No, it's going to take time. Time will come. Time will heal. Time will give us the opportunity to say, okay, now I understand. Now here is the fruit of what the time that I had wasted, the situations that I did not perceive in the past, right? The beauty of being with the vineyard near me, and here it is. This is also what I can offer, along with what the vineyard is offering as well every year, right? And finally, we would like to also present the idea that it is not just a tree. Because in many cases, if we were taking the element of a tree in considering it, we would think that, wait a minute, but the tree was bearing at least, a shade for those who were working in the vineyard, right? Yes, but it's not. We're not here just to be. We have to bear fruits. It comes to a point of our lives that we realize that I am not just Leonardo Vieira, right? I realize that I am a a um, a combination of a million things, a million lives, right? That we, with that understanding, with those teachings that we have received, with the repetitions that we have done, that we're not here just to be. We're here to bear fruits, to multiply a message like this, to learn with others. The beauty of getting to know something new, right? Of coming to a realization, right? That's what we're here for. And most of the time, if not, I would say, at least in my evolutionary path, I am the one benefited. As much as I sometimes we like to believe that I'm offering this to someone, when we offer something, we're at least we were given the opportunity to offer something to somebody. So it's obviously a win-win situation, but I like to believe that I am the one being benefited when I do something for someone else, when I bear a fruit, a fruitful situation, condition for others as well. So this is the idea that we can bring to you, or the teachings that we can bring to you in terms of what the parable of the fig tree is. Obviously, we can dive into other ideas, scenarios, but I would like to, for not be, and hide, or perhaps forget what we have mentioned in terms of the two other passages. And I don't want to confuse anyone. This is the actual parable. But let's just take a quick look of what we learn from the other passages of the Bible. These are not parables, but these are actually passages where Jesus came in contact with this tree that was not bearing fruit. The teachings, again, it comes along with the elements that were evident to them, a part of their lives in Jesus' time, right? So that's why we hear the vineyard, or that's why we hear about the fig tree. That's why we hear about the fishermen, right? Them fishing together, the disciples, the bread, and all those things that we learn with these different parables. But on the first one, in Mark 11, we will see that the next day, as they were leaving Bethany, Jesus was hungry. Seeing in the distance a fig tree in leaf, this is important, he went to find out if it had any fruit. When he reached it, he found nothing but leaves, because it was not the season for figs. Then he said to the tree, "May no one ever eat fruit from you again." And his disciples heard him saying it. Down on Matthew 21, we will see that it's a little bit longer, the explanation of this passage. We read together just so we understand. And it says, early in the morning, as Jesus was on his way back to the city, he was hungry. Seeing a fig tree by the road, he went up to it, but found nothing on it except leaves. Then he said to it, may you never bear fruit again. Immediately the tree withered. When the disciples saw this, they were amazed and asking, "How did the fig tree wither so quickly?" Jesus replied, I tell you, if you have faith and do not doubt, not only can you do what was done to the fig tree, but also you can say to this mountain, "Go throw yourself into the sea," and it will be done. If you believe, you will receive whatever you ask for in prayer. So we see that there were, depending on how depending on the two gospels, we will see a little bit of a variation. But the content of the fig tree here is saying that Jesus actually had seen a tree that was in leaf. And this is something that I learned, studying with the scholars, that a fig tree to give figs you will see that it has a lot of leaves, right? It is in that condition that it has bloomed its leaves, right? And after comes the actual fruit, right? So Jesus, knowing the tree, knew that it was actually already bloomed. It was a tree, but it was not bearing fruit, and that's why uh, analyzing its the capabilities of the tree, but not giving fruits. Jesus then says, "You will not bear any fruits," and the tree actually withers. We also have to take in consideration here the knowledge of the master towards a tree that we perhaps have some today, but at that time was unknown, right? Knowing the structure of the tree and saying this tree is not going to give any more fruit because it's full of leaves, because before it would bear fruits it would have to be full of leaves in the early spring, and perhaps what they say, the scholar says, is that they would give also fruits be towards the end of the actual summer. We see here that it was full of leaves and nothing was happening, so that's why he says you will not bear any fruits and the tree withers, right? All of this to say, we are not just a tree. We are here to bear fruits. We are here to multiply the teachings that we have received, especially the moral ones, right? Whatever we have received from our parents, whatever we have received from one another, whatever we receive from Spiritism, right? Whatever we can bear as well. If I can speak towards those who follow these teachings and the Spiritist teachings as well, in terms of the capabilities that we have in terms of mediumship, right? What are we doing with the beautiful resources that we have received? Are we bearing any fruit? Are we helping others? Are we extending a hand? That is the main a point of this, because justice will come to a point in our lives that one day we will have to bear fruits. Yes, it is important for us to remind ourselves that this justice works with the love and charity that we learned in Spirit's book, but it's certainly extremely important for us to um, point out that we have the essence inside of us to bear fruits as well. So with very few um, uh, verses in this parable, right? Very few verses. We hear several teachings. We extract so much from it, and sometimes we don't notice not only the capabilities that is around us, but the capabilities that are within us, right? Because we are caught up in the past, because we think that perhaps others may do a better job than we can do, or be something that we would like to be, and we forget about ourselves. So let us be the tree. Let us be the fruitful tree, not just bear a shade for others, which is important, right? But truly to be the tree that others can count on it to give the shade, to give the fruits on its time, whenever possible. Whenever others are thirsty, whenever others are hungry, right? That they're looking for something from us, let us be the tree. Let us be the one who can serve the most and whenever possible. That is the message that I would like to leave with you. And hopefully you have a better understanding what the parable is, and perhaps the other two teachings are, right? That we see in the Gospels as well, of Mark and Matthew.
That is awesome. I want to say thank you. Thank you so much, Leonardo. Your reflections and invitation for all of us to dig deeper, right? It's not just
Mhm.
reading, but really understanding. But I want to really ask everyone, we have time for a Q&A session that will start shortly. And I love it that we have this beautiful flyer here. Yes, next week we have the 19th U.S. Spiritist Symposium. And it is and I'm talking about our as in the entire Spiritist workers and organizations and initiatives and learnings in North America. And this will happen next week on, as you can see, September 20th, next Saturday in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And please look, just the topic is intriguing. The evolution of consciousness, a path towards enlightenment. And please note, there'll be many activities for children, for teenagers, etc., etc. I'll be there, so I hope to see all of you in Michigan next week. Um, this flyer here, it's also about another program, the podcast like series, Psychology and Spirituality, A Bridge to a Better Life, which is based on the works by Joanna De Angelis. And there is a new episode every Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern. And it's also available on YouTube and Spotify after the fact. And please note the program is sponsored by the U.S. Spiritist Federation, but also other organizations such as Mansão do Caminho. This one is interesting to me. It's a great new app, a Spiritist app, Be My Hope, that is there to offer you and anyone you to know content that is uplifting. There's also videos, messages, audio materials, so you can download it free now from the App Store or Google Play. It is free. And there are 7 free professionally recorded Spiritist audiobooks for all of us. This has been sponsored and produced by the Spiritist Society of the Carolinas, and you can listen to all of Allan Kardec's foundational works at your own pace using the link to YouTube at Spiritist Society Carolinas. And on the screen, please note we are offering this opportunity for you to leverage the QR code if you want to help the U.S. Spiritist Federation produce more publications, promote Spiritism to everyone. You can just scan the QR code on screen for your donation. So let's see if we can get to our friend Leonardo for your comments and your questions. So let's see if we have anyone out there. Um, so, Leonardo, what did a fig tree represent in the culture of Israel at the time of Jesus? And I think it's really referencing the fact that there's so many passages as well as the parable for us. Is there a special meaning? Do you know?
Thank you for the question. Can you hear me well?
Yes, yes,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay. To as far as in the culture itself, what I would like to say, because it is a tree, it is a an element that it was so in the culture itself, right? That's why it was referenced more often than not, right? Just like
Mhm,
the vineyard, just like the fishermen, as I was saying,
mhm.
it is something. But as far as the directly, it's not something that I didn't dive into it in
That's
terms
fine. Yeah.
of like is there a specific meaning? But we
Uh-huh.
see that is one of the elements that it was as you said yourself, that is something that was actually mentioned several times, and we will see this in different teachings, right? Much like the other elements that we see. And this is interesting that you asked this, because if we were to receive or to multiply these teachings nowadays, would we use a fig tree? Not necessarily, right? We would use
Yeah.
something else, right? If we were to receive a teachings from the our mentors, right? They
Yeah.
utilize elements that we are aware of, and that are in common, that for us, right? So, but that's a good point. But thanks for
Yeah.
the question.
I just always remember, Leonardo and everyone, that when I was a kid, and I'm talking about the 5, 6, 7-year old, um, reading or hearing about this passage, and I was just like, why are we doing this to the poor tree? And I happen to have myself a fig tree in my backyard, so it's like a
Wow.
very precious tree, right? But thank you for your
No,
explanation.
and
Go
if I may say
ahead.
before we go to the next question,
Yeah.
this is something that from talking to other friends and discussing this parable as well. It's
Mhm.
an element that we see, right? It's so harsh of Christ to come and say,
Yeah.
here's the tree that is now cursed. But we
Yes.
have to understand that
Yeah.
he knew the essence of the tree, and to him was, wait a minute, this is not being useful, right? So the
Yeah.
teaching goes that is that tree was not being useful because
Yeah.
it was not bearing any fruit.
I have a personal um, newer, more recent interpretation why he said that. And the reason, the good reason for stop doing it, which to me, and I'm just going to take the microphone here to say, I'm so
Please.
sorry, Leonardo, but it is the question of those of us, including ourselves, that um, prioritize form versus function. And what I mean by that is, oh, I spend all my resources, my energy, my time, and my talent to look. There's very external, but inside, I'm really not spending the time. So, from that perspective, if I were to say this is an incarnation with a very specific plan for me, and if I'm wasting that plan, and I'm not, it's an orchestration, right, Leonardo? So, I'm wasting everybody's time, including my own. It's best to stop than continue with no fruit. This is my very simple explanation that I see. But anyways,
Very well. That we're
we
not just
digress.
trees. We're not just trees, right?
Yeah, yeah. But let's see. I saw there's another one. So the person was comparing the accounts, right? Luke, and the
Mhm.
question maybe referencing the other one. How does Jesus invite us to reflect about the call to bear fruit?
Invites us to reflect about the call to bear fruit. I think that
Yeah.
the idea here, as and as a segue what you just said, it's
Mhm.
not just to be a tree, right? It's
Yeah.
to bear fruits. It's to truly dive in and ask ourselves, um,
Mhm.
what is my purpose, right? and
Yeah.
and and when we start thinking about these idea of purposes or whatnot, we start to fantasize on like miracles,
I
beautiful
know.
things,
Yeah.
right? Oh, I want to accomplish this. I wanted to be, I aspire to be this person, which is beautiful. There's nothing wrong of aiming to be a São Francisco of Assisi, right? But
Uh-huh.
the reality is we have our own path to cross, right? We have our cross to take with us as well, right?
Yeah.
Our baggages that we bring with us from other lives as well. And then once we start realizing this work that is slow, very difficult at times, but we have the capability to bear the little fruits that will come if we dedicate ourselves to truly find out of who we are and what we're here for, right? And we
Hmm.
start putting different meanings to certain things, right?
Yeah.
Where I'm not just going to work, but I am serving at work, right?
I love it. Yes. Yeah.
I'm not just sitting with my family, but I am serving my family with my presence there, right? By saying good things, by being positive, right? And sometimes, the tough love, right? When we say the tough love is to be to really represent who you are there, right? I am the father, I am the mother, I am the daughter, I'm the son. In
Hmm.
that context, where here I am to do my best to be this
Yes.
person in this context. So we start changing on how we present ourselves as we
Yes.
start asking, right? Because and the more we do, the better will be, because We're not just getting up, brushing our teeth, and going just like machines, going to work, coming back, and whatnot, right? We again we give a different meaning to our lives. So I think this is how, with the teachings that we have received from this parable and the different parables and this one as well, is to come in contact with ourselves through our Creator and obviously through the teachings of Christ.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. I really appreciate it. And I second that. Sometimes a smile can be what you need to do, right? The call to bear fruit may be a smile. It's docility, generosity, tolerance, right? Yeah. So the question we have is, can we understand the parable of the fig tree without fruit? Is failing its purpose as us, as immortal spirits who fail to learn and grow in this life we are living?
It can be.
Hmm.
I think that, for me to say that it is or it is not, I mean, you brought a beautiful passage or a beautiful understanding of what the parable can represent to us, right?
Hmm.
Um, the only thing that I like to say is that when we look at the opportunity of the tree not bearing fruit, and
Yeah,
the opportunities that we have in life of things that we have not done,
yeah,
that we don't fall into a guilt trip, right? Like
yeah,
we
yeah,
say in the mundane words,
yeah.
um, and also to punish ourselves, right?
Hmm.
It's very very easy for us to look at a situation of the past, right? Something that we didn't do or something that we did poorly, right?
Hmm.
And 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 judge ourselves and try to
Yeah,
say, oh, I was wrong. Well, we
yeah,
did. We approached the situation in such a way that that's what we had in our hearts, right?
yeah,
That's the
yeah,
understand that we had about life. So if one is analyzing the parable that way, it's okay. But then what are we doing in the now? So that
yes,
tomorrow, as we mentioned in the parable, as we were talking about the parable, so that tomorrow, and this tomorrow may not be tomorrow, right? The next day, but
yeah,
some time ago, we start bearing fruit. We start seeing some changes because new behaviors will need to be implemented, new conditions. We may lose some friends, right? We may make some
yeah,
friends, right? So things will need to change in order for us to bear fruit. Much like the manure were presented, right? Was presented.
yes, yeah,
So there
yeah,
will be some challenges, right?
yeah,
Opportunities with some challenges. And in that sense, it these are all resources that we're receiving from God to bear the fruit. It can happen.
yeah. I just wanted to call something that you said that is, it just triggered my imagination here, which is guilt. So, right, I received a calling and I'm not bearing or I'm not matching that potential. You mentioned that earlier, right? That
Mhm.
Jesus knew the potential for the tree that it could do and it didn't, right? And
Mhm.
one response mechanism may be guilt, and that leads to really nothing, to do the self punishment or all of the consequences. And to me it is all a matter of truly understand the infinite mercy that God has for us, and that if we are indeed unable to do it today, as you just mentioned, let's use the feelings of guilt as that trigger to understand, ah, if I'm feeling guilt from a conscious perspective, I recognize in me the capability, right? So let's just use that as a trigger for, okay, let me try harder next time.
Right. I agree. And as
Yeah.
long as that feeling is not paralyzing, that
Yes.
is that
Yes.
because the guilt is actually a seconds the realization that something
Yes.
went wrong, right?
Yes.
So guilt
Yes.
it is a powerful thing if it is
Yeah.
not paralyzing. Very well. Thank you.
Yes. I love it. Thank you. Thank you for that. Well, let's see if I believe we may have another one. Um, how to best apply this message to us. The question about bearing spiritual fruits or using the opportunities we have received. I think it's just the questions are coming just as we speak it, right? They somehow trigger what we just or reference what we just said. So
Very well.
can you talk a little bit about
Yeah,
this
I
parable
think
in us, right?
yeah, I think that this is a crucial element because
Uh,
we cannot do to others if we don't apply towards ourselves. And I think
yes.
that we were talking about this idea of, yes, I wasn't bearing fruit, right? I am this
Mhm.
beautiful tree, but I wasn't bearing fruit. First thing I would say is to be open, right? Is to understand that, yes, I have beautiful capabilities, but I can develop more. I can be a
Yeah.
tree, right? I can be a shade, since we're
Yeah.
taking this idea of the tree, but I need to bear more fruits. I need to do more. And it's not let me say, let me think of the right word here. I don't want to say just punishing way, but or demanding way, right? But
Hmm.
we aspire to be something better, right? We
Yeah.
all try to be something better, and sometimes we debilitate ourselves, we short come ourselves, and I think the idea here is to be open. Okay, how can I do this? What are the resources that I have near me, right? What are the
Hmm.
opportunities that are giving me? And opportunities most likely in life in this planet that is not a happy planet yet, right? They will come in forms of sacrifices, right?
Yeah.
Difficulties, right? That's going to push us to the limit to say, oh, you know what? Maybe I need to do this a different way, right? And the other thing that I would add, these opportunities also come as not something that will be shown, a resource that will be given to us, but also a lack of a resource as well, right?
Interesting. Yeah.
Because sometimes we think that, oh, I need this. No, perhaps you don't need the distractions, right, that
Yeah.
are around
Yeah.
us. And sometimes we're looking for something. Sometimes what you need to do is to empty the cup, right, so that you can fill with something better, right? So there are all these elements that happens in our lives. Our partners, our children, the our co-workers, right? Just open up, open yourself and say, what do I have, right? What do I have in the now that perhaps I can multiply to perhaps have more to bear fruits, right? So I think that's the idea that I would live everyone in terms of, what we can do, and is to truly open up to yourself. And as you do this, we will see that we will be able to do towards others and saying to someone, dear friend, you're not bearing fruit, but you have such a beautiful potential. You can do more
Yeah.
as well. And we give
Yeah.
them their push, right? Because we
Yeah.
have trained that within us.
I love it. I love that thought process. Thank you. Thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
But
Thank you.
we right, I just wanted to say we are at time, but thank you all of us here. I'm sure are like me saying thank you for your words and thank you for you if you have been following us, our weekly Spiritist Talk series. I hear we have again just a reminder, right? We talked about it earlier, but come join us next Saturday. We will be at in Ann Arbor, Michigan, at the 19th symposium. And if you cannot join, I think it will be broadcasted right through this channel. But I just I'll be there, as I said. I hope to see you there. It is an amazing topic and a moment to really get closer to those like-minded individuals. But Leo, before we close the live, would you be so kind to either provide us with your final remarks or thoughts or prayer?
Thank you so much. Yes, I would love to. And first of all, saying again, thank you for all of you for this beautiful moment. We hope that this message has brought you closer to God, to our Master Jesus, in a different way, reestablishing that connection. And for that, I will just to say thank you as we raise our thoughts to our dear Creator in a prayer. Dear Master Jesus, we thank you for this amazing opportunity that we have to be among friends, to share a message, to multiply the teachings that we have received, to be a tree that only gives shade, that get others connected with us, but also that we give the fruits of for those who are thirsty, who are hungry to learn more, to get to know themselves, to get closer to you, dear God. This way, we hope that we can put into practice these teachings, the understanding of the beautiful parables, and how to apply them in our lives. Guide our pathway, guide our brothers and sisters who are with us, those whom we still have to straighten a thing here and there, and hopefully that they can understand that the change inside of us are for the best. And we hope that they can connect with us as they also try to change their ways. Meeting again so that we can reconnect in a better way from what we have done in the past, but also to be jubilant and happy about the future ahead of us. We are thankful for this beautiful moment, and so be it.